I'd say I'm still figuring it out, you know? Like, I just as soon as I think I have it figured out, like, something will happen. I'll be like, oh, I didn't respond to that the way that I thought that I might, you know? So it continues to change and evolve, and I continue to surprise myself. And sometimes I do fall into those old survival patterns, you know, where it's like, hey, man, for a long time, like, this is how I operated and this is how I thought, and it's easy for me to slip back into that, you know? But, you know, in that regard, like, I'm at least at this point in my road or my journey where I can sort of look at that and go, okay, this is sort of what I do, right? Like, this is old design, old habit, old thinking that I really can move past if I'm at least aware of it first.
So you're owning it?
You could say I'm
you're owning it.
Yeah, I like
you're
that.
understanding it, and you're owning that is what is happening.
Right.
And you can acknowledge it, and that's the first step in anything. So continue to own it. That's amazing.
Yeah,
Dang,
change doesn't happen overnight. We all know that, right? Like,
No.
it comes from this place of, for me, it always came from this place of discomfort, you know, and we've talked about that several times. Mm-hmm. You know, that place where you realize, like you were saying, I'm gonna wake up, I'm gonna smile today, mm-hmm. right? Like, what a crazy place to be, where we don't smile, right? Like that was life at one time. Mm-hmm. You know, the world is so much better on this side of the table, but coming to understand that that's something that needs to happen is kind of a difficult thing, especially, you know, you talk about, we talked about on your show where you were manipulated, made to believe that you weren't worthy of things, yes. right? And like, I can't imagine that it was that way as a child, right? Like,
no.
Like it was something. So like, how did it get to that? Like, how can you tell us a little bit about like how, like maybe for somebody who's listening who may be thinking like, wow, I wonder if like I'm in this domestic violence situation, but I'm not sure. Like, what are some things that were some signs that, or how did it get to the point where you were completely taken over by another person?
So for me, my childhood was amazing. I had a child when I was 18. So I turned 18 a week before I had her. And her father left me, and us, when she was a year old. So I was raising a child by myself as a senior in high school, and I had this man come into my life as a knight in shining armor, right? He wanted to be baby daddy, like he was just this amazing man. And for me now, looking back on it, that's how those types of people are. They come in and they offer you the entire world, and I'm this amazing person, and it's like a play. So they're playing a role that they want you to see. So then you start to believe in that, and then as time goes on, they start to do little things that you're like, oh, that's totally normal. Like, I don't even know. It's just like going out with friends, but you need to stay here. Like, I want you to stay safe here. Oh, okay. He wants to make sure I'm safe. I'm going to stay home and be safe. But in reality, he's telling me what I can and can't do. Mm. So then that started to get worse. And then it's, well, you can only go out with me. Well, why can't I go out with my friends? I mean, I remember, I'm going to be very vulnerable. Is that okay for a minute?
Oh, I like it.
You're in the right place.
All right. I just got to ask.
Yep.
So there was even a moment I remember I went to like Victoria's Secret and I bought a whole bunch of new underwear, and I had an opportunity to go out with my sister. And I was like, well, I really want to wear my new underwear. Like, I'm super excited about it, right? So I go home and I put on my new underwear, and he says to me, well, why are you changing your underwear? Why do you need to wear new stuff? I'm like, well, because it's new. Like, I really just want to wear it. It's cute. Nobody else is going to see it, but you feel sexy when you put on new shit. So that's what I was doing. And he brought me down and belittled me and made me feel like I was doing something wrong because it was something that made me feel good. So then it comes to a point where you stop telling other people what are happening. So I went out with my sister, and I was super sad. I was like, I don't understand why he's angry at me. And so I didn't tell her. And then you start making excuses for things that are happening. So I had my sister on my show, and she told me a story where my daughter was in a cradle out in the hall. And she says, well, why isn't she in the bedroom? And I said, well, because, if she'll cry, then my other daughter will wake up, and I don't want to deal with this. And she says, no, it was because of him. He wouldn't allow you to keep her in the room with you. And I was like, oh my God, you're right. So there's all these different things that would happen, and the more that you realize that you're not telling somebody, that's what's wrong. If you're afraid to go and talk to somebody, or you think you're going to get in trouble because you're talking to that person, that's a red flag. If they're telling you what you can and cannot do, it's this cycle. So somebody will come, and they'll tell you how much they love you. They'll flower you. They'll deflower you also, but they'll give you flowers. They do all of this stuff, and then they tell you that you're doing something wrong, and then they make you feel guilty for that, and then they go back to the, hey, here's some flowers, you're amazing, I love you. So you're stuck in this cycle. And once you start to see, like, wait a minute, why I didn't do anything, and then they suck you in with the love, and then they make you feel awful about yourself. So the best thing is, once you realize that you're in that cycle, then you're able to start standing up for yourself. So for me, I tell people, look, if you can see that he's, you get all the super I love you, I miss you text messages, and then later that night it's, how could you do this, you did it wrong, then that's that cycle. Because then the next day it'll be, oh, I love you, you're so amazing, and you're just stuck in that.
So it would be safe to say right action needs no explanation, right? Like, go back to that. Like, if you have to explain your situation and you can't, because like somebody's going to get in trouble, right? Either you from your friends and your family for being in that situation, or you from your spouse for talking about that situation.
Exactly right. And I never told anybody. I mean, I thought I was a good actress, but apparently, like, everybody knew, but you don't ever say anything. So my parents and I really have never had the conversation. My sister and I just barely had the conversation 8 years later, so if you feel like you're going to get in trouble for saying anything to anybody else, you're in a bad spot. But the other side of that is, if you are somebody who sees someone that is in that situation, don't push it, right? Don't go up to him and go, you are being a dumbass for being in this situation. How can you let him treat you this way? How can you go through life like this? Don't, because then they're going to shut you out, close up, and not say anything to anybody. And then it could get worse from there.